You don't always realize when love starts to starve. Sometimes it doesn't scream. Sometimes it just sighs itself to sleep night after night. Madison and I have been married for 5 years. In the beginning, things were vibrant, fun, passionate. We had our little routines, late-night takeout on Fridays, road trips to nowhere on Sundays, and enough shared laughter to fill a lifetime. But as the years ticked by, something shifted. Slowly, then suddenly. It started with small things. She stopped texting me during the day like she used to. Stopped reaching for my hand in the car. The playful little flirty glances we used to trade while brushing our teeth at night just stopped. At first, I chalked it up to life getting busier. She'd started working at a new company. Long hours, high pressure. I tried to be supportive. I made sure the house stayed clean, handled most of the bills, even started prepping dinner just so she could come home to something warm. And I didn't mind. That's what love is, right? Picking up the slack when the other is overwhelmed. But then came the "I'm tired." At first, I didn't think much of it. One night here, another there. We all have days when we don't feel up for closeness. But it kept happening. Every time I leaned in for a kiss that lingered too long, "I'm tired." When I reached out under the covers, just craving that connection, I had such a long day. Even just spooning in bed became too much effort. Can we not? I'm exhausted. Weeks passed, then months. Always the same excuse. At first, I try not to take it personally. I gave her space. I reminded myself that marriage wasn't about keeping score. So I waited. I waited for her to come back to me, to reach for me like she used to smile and pull me close just because. But the waiting turned into wondering. And the wondering became quiet heartbreak. You start to question everything. Was I not attractive to her anymore? Did I do something wrong? Is she just not into me? Or worse, into someone else? But I never accused her of anything. I wasn't trying to start a war. I just wanted my wife back. I tried bringing it up one evening, softly. We were on the couch, lights dimmed, some mindless TV show in the background. I turned to her and said, "Hey, can we talk about something?" She looked over, already on the defensive. What now? That reaction alone hurt more than she'll ever know. I pressed on anyway. I just feel like we haven't been close. And I miss you. I miss us. She let out a sigh. Brandon, we're adults. We can't be all over each other every night. I'm tired. I work. I have deadlines. It's not always about you needing sex, you know. That cut deep. I wasn't begging for sex. I was asking for connection, for affection, for something to remind me that I wasn't just her roommate who happened to pay the mortgage. But I didn't fight. I didn't yell. I just nodded. Okay. And that was it. The conversation ended. The show played on. She didn't touch me once the entire evening. After that, I stopped trying to initiate anything. I slept facing the opposite direction. I came home a little later from work, took more calls in the garage, started pouring myself into tasks that didn't involve her. Still, I held on to hope. Maybe she'd notice the silence and ask. Maybe she'd crawl into my lap one night, whisper she missed me too. Maybe something would spark again. It didn't. One night, though, one particular night, broke the last piece of me. It was a Friday. I had taken a day off, cleaned the house, got her favorite wine, cooked dinner from scratch, the same dish we had on our second date. I even ironed my shirt, shaved, lit candles. I was trying one final attempt to reconnect. She came home late, tossed her bag on the floor, barely looked at the table. "Why is it so dark in here?" she asked flatly. "I thought it'd be nice. I made that pasta you love." She glanced at the candles and sighed. "Brandon, I'm too tired for this tonight. Can we not do this right now?" And just like that, the wind left my chest. She didn't even sit down. She went straight to the bedroom, changed into sweatpants, and got under the blankets without touching a single bite of food. I sat at the table alone, the candles flickering, my fork untouched. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was angry, but because I finally understood. Her tiredness wasn't about work. It wasn't about the stress. It wasn't even about me, necessarily. It was about comfort, complacency. The fact that she no longer saw me as someone to impress, pursue, or even consider. She was emotionally checked out. And worse, she had no idea how much I'd been unraveling. I stared at the ceiling and thought, what happens when a man who does everything starts doing nothing? That was the turning point. I didn't scream. I didn't demand anything. I simply decided, if she was too tired to love me, I'd stop supporting her like I loved her. No more paying for her Amazon hauls. No more making her car payments without question. No more covering 100% of the rent while she spent her energy on everything and everyone but me. I wasn't going to punish her. I was going to protect myself. Because here's what I learned in that silence. It's not the rejection that breaks a man. It's the realization that he was never prioritized in the first place. The next morning, I canceled the card she had access to, transferred rent into a split account, texted her politely. We'll need to start balancing expenses going forward. Let's talk later. She didn't reply immediately, but I knew the comfort she'd been coasting on had just run out. And I was finally ready to stop begging for love and start investing in peace. There's a kind of silence that isn't empty, it's loaded. That was the kind of silence I woke up in the next morning. Madison didn't say anything when she noticed the missing credit card in her wallet. She also didn't mention that the automatic payments for her gym membership and her favorite streaming platform had mysteriously failed. But I could see it on her face that something had changed. She was trying to figure out, like someone who's certain that they left the faucet running but can't hear the water anymore. That morning, I made my own breakfast. Scrambled eggs, coffee, toast, nothing fancy, but it was mine. I didn't make a second plate like I usually did. I didn't place a hot mug next to her spot at the table. And she noticed. She walked into the kitchen, paused, and just stared at me. "Did you forget to make coffee for me?" she asked with a faint smirk, the kind that hoped things were still normal. I didn't flinch. No, I didn't forget. There was no anger in my tone, just clarity, like a man who finally realized he'd been carrying a weight someone else stopped helping with a long time ago. She didn't respond, just grabbed a glass of water and walked back to the bedroom. That used to be the moment I'd chase her, apologize, explain myself, try to smooth things over. Not anymore. That same day, I sent her a message from the living room while she was in the home office. "Hey, we need to start splitting rent and utilities from this month on. I'll send over the breakdown. Let me know how you want to handle your portion." It was direct, respectful, no emotion attached, because frankly, mine were worn thin. No reply. Around 8 p.m., I heard her moving around the kitchen, louder than usual. The clanking of plates, the slamming of cabinet doors. A storm in search of attention. But I stayed on the couch, focused on a podcast, completely unfazed. By the third day, the shift in energy had started to take effect. She stopped buying the fancy oat milk she liked. Canceled a hair appointment. Her tone shifted, not rude, but suddenly attentive. Like she realized she'd lost the emotional upper hand and wasn't sure how to respond. One evening, she walked into the living room wearing jeans and a fitted top, an outfit she hadn't worn in months. She stood in the doorway, lingering. "You want to maybe order something?" My treat. It was the first time she'd offered in a long time. I paused, looked at her, then said casually, "I already ate." She stood there for a moment, unsure whether to stay or walk away. "I could have waited if you told me." I raised an eyebrow. "You've been too tired for conversations like this, remember?" She didn't reply, just walked to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of wine, the bottle I didn't buy. That week, I kept pulling back. I stopped offering to pick things up on the way home. Didn't remind her when her car needed service. Didn't top up her gas tank before a long trip. I wasn't being petty. I was just done with the invisible labor of a man who received nothing but cold shoulders in return. And slowly, the shift hit her. She started asking questions. "Hey, did you cancel the Amazon Prime?" "Yes." "Why?" "I don't use it." "But I do." "Then feel free to renew it." I could see the cracks forming. Her voice, once firm and dismissive, was now layered with confusion. It wasn't about the subscription. It was about the sudden disappearance of a man she thought she'd always have in her pocket. Then came the fifth night, the one where everything shifted. I came home from work and found the table set. Not just clean set. Candles. Plates. Napkins folded neatly. The smell of roasted chicken and garlic bread filled the air. Madison walked out of the kitchen wearing a soft beige dress I hadn't seen in ages. "Dinner's ready," she said, almost shyly. I sat down, ate in silence. She tried making conversation, light, flirty, slightly nervous, like she was dating me again. How was work? Same as usual. I was thinking maybe this weekend we could go to that place we used to like. The one by the water. I chewed my food, nodded politely. Maybe. She looked disappointed, but tried to keep the smile up. After dinner, she touched my hand gently. Do you want to watch something together tonight? This was a woman who had told me, I'm too tired more nights than I could count. I looked at her hand on mine, then at her. Funny how energized you've become now. She froze. Her hand pulled back slightly, not out of fear, but because she knew. She knew that I wasn't just being cold. I was done being played with. I didn't realize how much you were doing, she said quietly. I got comfortable. Selfish, maybe. I nodded. It's not maybe. She looked down. You're right. There it was. Finally. But I wasn't looking for an apology. Not anymore. Because what most people don't realize is that when a man stops giving, it's not because he's bitter. It's because he's empty. And by the time he stops, he's already grieved the relationship you're still trying to resurrect. That weekend, I went out with some friends. Stayed out late. Came back home to find her sitting on the edge of the bed, still dressed up, mascara smudged, phone in her hand. She looked up. I waited. I kicked off my shoes. Didn't ask you to. Her lips parted, like she wanted to argue, but didn't know how. The following week, I noticed something strange. Madison was waking up earlier, cleaning more, sending me good morning texts, wearing perfume again, laughing a little too loud when I walked into the room. But it all felt like a performance, not rooted in love, but fear. Because now she knew what I had known for months. Affection should never be taken for granted, and support, true support, must be mutual. Her sudden energy wasn't a breakthrough. It was desperation. But the irony? By the time she was ready to give, I was no longer interested in asking. It's strange how quickly someone can find the energy to fight for what they once let slip away. After weeks of pulling back, I watched Madison slowly transform. It wasn't subtle anymore. The woman who once muttered, I'm too tired, each night like a broken record, was now doing everything she could to reverse the narrative. She started making breakfast in the mornings, even on weekdays. Pancakes on Wednesdays, eggs and avocado toast on Fridays, always served with this awkward smile like she wasn't sure if I'd accept the peace offering. She began dressing differently too. Not for the world, but for me. Suddenly, her oversized hoodies and messy buns were replaced with sundresses and perfume. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But noticing and feeling are two different things. And the man she wanted to win back wasn't the same man she had ignored for half a year. One night, she asked if we could go for a drive, like old times. We used to do that a lot in the early days. Just cruise through quiet streets, music low, windows cracked open, laughing over nothing. Back then, she'd reach for my hand between gear shifts. She'd lean on my shoulder at red lights. She'd sing with me, off-key and free. Now, she sat stiff in the passenger seat, glancing at me like I was a stranger she used to know. I miss this, she said softly, her voice barely audible over the hum of the engine. I gave a short nod, eyes on the road. Yeah. She turned toward me. Do you ever miss us? I didn't answer right away. I let the silence sit, let stretch. Then I said, I used to. A lot. She exhaled sharply, like the wind had been knocked out of her. What about now? I kept driving. Now I miss the man I used to be around you. That one hit her. Hard. Because she knew exactly what I meant. I wasn't trying to punish her. I wasn't trying to twist a knife. I was just speaking honestly, probably for the first time in months, without filtering my feelings to protect hers. We parked outside a 24-hour diner we used to love. She asked if I wanted to go in. I told her I wasn't hungry. She looked down at her hands in her lap, quiet, unsure of what to do with this version of me. When we got home, she followed me into the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. I know I shut you out, she said. I didn't see what was doing to us to you. And by the time I woke up, it's like you were already gone. She wasn't wrong. I'd been grieving the loss of our closeness for months, crying in silence, convincing myself that it was just a phase. But the truth was, love that gets ignored too long doesn't die loudly. It fades. And once it's gone, no apology, no candlelight dinner, no desperate kiss can bring it back. Still, she tried. She began reaching for me in bed again. Soft touches on my shoulder, kisses on my cheek in the morning. One night, she wore the same lingerie she'd worn on our first anniversary, the same color, the same scent on her skin. She stood by the bedroom door, visibly vulnerable, waiting for me to say something. I looked at her, and I saw beauty. I saw effort, but I didn't see us. I didn't feel that instinct to pull her close, to whisper something reckless in her ear, to give myself over completely the way I once did. I just felt tired. Not physically, emotionally. Like I'd already emptied everything I had into a well that stayed dry too long. "I'm sorry," she said, voice breaking. "I thought I had more time. I thought you'd always be here." And I believed her. I truly did. But I also knew that her sudden urgency didn't come from love. It came from fear. From realizing that the man who once made her life easier, more comfortable, had stopped showing up on command. She had mistaken consistency for weakness, dependability for desperation. And now that the foundation she stood on had shifted, she was panicking. She started doing all the things I used to beg for, planning date nights, packing me lunch, asking me about my day with genuine interest. But everything felt reversed. Like the roles had flipped. Now I was the one making polite excuses, pretending to be tired, saying maybe next time. And she felt it. One Saturday afternoon, she finally broke. I came home from the gym and found her in the living room, tears in her eyes, holding a photo album we hadn't touched in years. "This isn't fair," she whispered, flipping through a picture of us at the lake. "You didn't even give me a chance." I sat across from her and took a long breath. "I gave you 6 months of chances." She looked up, but I didn't see it. I didn't know how bad things had gotten. "You didn't want to see it," I said, "because I wasn't loud. I didn't fight. I just kept showing up until I couldn't anymore." She reached across the coffee table, touched my hand, her voice trembling. "Can't we just start over? Please." I looked at her hand on mine, and in that moment, I realized I had no bitterness left. No hate, no resentment, but also no fire. "I'm not angry at you, Maddie," I said. "I'm just done chasing someone who only ran when I reached out." Her eyes filled again. "I swear I'll never push you away like that again." I stood up slowly. "You already did." I left the room and packed a small overnight bag. Not to disappear forever, just to get space, clarity, breathing room. She stood in the doorway as I zipped the bag. "Where are you going?" I looked her in the eye, steady. "To rest. You've been tired for months. Now it's my turn." I didn't slam the door. I didn't make a scene. I just walked out, the same way I had emotionally walked away weeks before. And she stood there crying, finally awake, finally energized, but far too late. Because here's the truth. When a man goes quiet, it's not because he doesn't feel. It's because he felt everything and got nothing back. She begged for another chance. She promised change. But I'd already changed, in silence, in survival, in self-respect. And that version of me? He wasn't tired. He was done.